Hi, this is Jamie Boggs with Burning River Bushcraft. Today we're going to go over a new crossbow I just purchased for my son. We're going to unbox it and set it up. This is a Jaguar brand crossbow. I purchased it at Rural King. It was just under $100. It has a 175 pound pull. The key feature I liked about this crossbow, the fact that it was a kit included. I have the crossbow, bolts, there's a sight included, a sling, and a quiver. Also, it's a nice lightweight crossbow. This is a recurve compared to a compound crossbow. This has got less moving parts. It should be more durable over the long term, but the key thing is the weight. This is under 5 pounds. So especially for small framed youth, this is going to be a lot easier for them to have and to shoot. So let's unbox this thing and see what's involved. Okay, there's some assembly required with this, but we'll get it all tuned up and get some arrows through it. Let's start the assembly process. Four aluminum bolts. I see 2 tips on here right from the get-go. I don't know if the other tips are included. Okay, here's the quiver. We'll put that aside for now. This is the side quiver bracket. Front sight post. This is the limb anchor, limb attachment. Sling. Here's the red dot sight included. Safety glasses. They did include rail lube. I didn't believe they were going to do that. That's definitely an added bonus. Here's the string and a cocking cable, it looks like. Here's one of the arrow tips. Here's the other. I heard something rattling around in the box when I pulled it off the shelf, and it kind of gave me some concern. But so far everything's packaged up pretty well. Okay, here's the main body of the crossbow. Our limb. Here's the prod to cock it. Okay. So we've got what we need immediately, and then the accessories and stuff are off to the side. Let's get this thing together. So we'll start with the front sight assembly. This is really almost like a shotgun bead. I'll give you a close-up of that. They did not have the red dot installed at the store, so we just kind of squinted down the rail to get a sight picture, and I believe this is more like an emergency backup sight, and that is the case. This was not actually included in the store either. This is a rear sight. So what we were doing at the store was just using the rear dovetail for the scope like a gutter rail. So we were just centering up the bead into a larger gutter, left to right. That would have been more of an emergency sighting system, but this is a legitimate rear sight. I don't believe it's going to work in tandem with the red dot, but that's definitely something that you could include in your bag along with like an extra string. So in case you hit a bad spot, you're having some kind of problems in the field, you've always got, you know, a backup sight to get you home. I'm going to use my multi-tool to go ahead and tighten this down. I'm about 20 steps from real tools, but keeping in the self-reliance theme of things, I'll use what I have. At this time, I'm not going to put any thread locker on here. If I get into any problems with vibration, where I start shaking some of my components loose, I'm going to go to Loctite Blue. That's a medium grade Loctite. Okay, that's all on. Great. Now the front foot stirrup is directional, so I'm going to put it channeled down. That's going to slide into place more or less. Okay, I have a small Allen to put this in. They did supply a wrench. And this Allen wrench is something I would include along with the rear sight in case of emergency kit with this crossbow. I would also include, like I said before, the rear sight. I would also include extra batteries for the red dot sight. I would include the rail lube, which extends your string life. Both Allen wrenches, and probably if you're not carrying a multi-tool, you know, anytime you're carrying something mechanical like this into the woods, it's a good idea to have it. So now the foot prod's on. The next step is going to be these plastic inserts. This is going to stabilize the limb, isolate it from the riser, or the stock, I guess you would call this on a crossbow. I guess technically it's not a riser. There's a metal shim. This metal shim fits in this piece of plastic right here. And then I see there's a screw that's going to bear in from the front. That is going to keep the the screw from actually digging into the fiberglass limb. Okay, fiberglass limb is going to be next. There's a plastic cover on here on either end. As you can see now, it's notched, but there's really not a proper place for a string. So this is going to give you a wear point. Let's put it together, letters up. I think it'll shoot better that way. So it's more or less straight in where it's going to go. However, I'm going to take the Allen bolt down to where I'm actually making contact with it, but it's not tight yet, like it's doing now. See how it's shifting everything into place? I'm going to let it finalize it here. There's two little index marks on either side of the limb. I think this one's visible. Not one on the other side, so I'm going to shim this to the right a little bit. I'm going to hide both marks. There we go. Perfect. So as you can see, nothing's tight yet, but I rocked it left, right until I revealed the little white index line on either side. Brought it back till I lost it. So right now it's centered. This plastic pad in the front, I was just basically holding with my fingers to keep it centered up. I don't think that's real critical. As long as the limb is sitting center, left to right, I don't believe the pad is as critical, but in this case it is where it needs to be. Okay. Next we're going to mount the quiver. Now this part feels real plasticky and cheap. I mean, granted the whole thing is under $100, and the crossbow is your main component here. So I'm willing to put up with some other components not being as solid. But it's just a matter of getting arrows through it, seeing how it holds up. Okay, and that's just going to slide over. All right. So we're going to set this. There's a forward lever to release the quiver. We're going to make sure that is forward. Let me flip this over. And this quiver mount looks like it's multi-purpose. You know, I've got the 2 holes I'm using, and then there's 2 additional holes that looks like it would be more for a standard riser for a compound or a recurve. But that's no surprise that they're not going to give you a dedicated crossbow side quiver. Okay. Okay, that's in place. Here's our quick release. This is actually a 6-arrow quiver. That's a nice feature to have. My crossbow that I use has a 4-arrow quiver on it, and that's plenty, but it doesn't really give you a lot of room to carry, you know, blunts or a field point or anything like that. So this gives you a few extra spots. Now here's something to think about. This is the orientation that this is going to go in. Okay, this is I don't know if you can see that real well. This is angled, so one side goes in, the other side does not. So that's going to be important because you want to decide what direction your quiver is going to sit. So I would want, my son's right-handed, so we're going to set that up so he can pull arrows. We're going to set that up so he can pull his arrows off with his right hand. So this is going to be the orientation that it goes with. Okay, and that kind of presses into place. You know, that's friction fit right now. And then there's actually a coarse thread small screw. So this is like a one-time deal. I'm going to turn these in with my Leatherman. And I am boring new holes in this plastic, so if you wanted to change the orientation, you'd still be using the same holes, so that really wouldn't be a big deal. But the more you take this in and out, the more your threads are going to not bite into the plastic, and it's just going to give you problems. Now if we get into a shake issue with the crossbow, this is where it's going to show up first, I believe, is in like a plasticky part like this. Okay, so we're going to hold off right now for installing the quiver. It's just a simple process of it slides in. There we go. And it does actually stop. Okay. And it's also quick release. Nice feature. I'm going to go ahead and load up the arrows into the quiver right now. These are aluminum. They're nice straight arrows. I like the colors on them. They're a high vis. So I am going to go ahead and install these. Okay, so I got spots for 2 more. I like that feature. Major bonus there. Now, I believe this might fit together. I might be able to get both of these on at the same time, but that's not my main goal. My main thing is to, set up the red dot sight as a primary sighting system. Batteries included. This is a 2032 Duracell. That is pretty standard for any type of red dot sight, again, which is a nice thing to have. You don't want to have multiple types of batteries that you would have to carry. Scope capture included. Okay. Okay, this is also directional. So we're going to have the windage turret be on the left side. That's how I'm going to set this up. Okay, let me spin this around so I can see it and you can see it also. It's set in where the far forward position, which was my original intent, but I wasn't liking it as much. There we go. So with a dovetail mount like this, these screws slide down and they have to actually engage and go through one of the notches on here. So the rear screw is movable, the forward screw is fixed. Nice. Went on there nice. Okay, I'm going to start to tighten these down. I'm going to be pretty cautious with this because, I'm expecting cheaper hardware. A lot of times this stuff will break on you. These red dots are cheap now anyway. So, again, I purchased a crossbow, a bunch of stuff came with it for free. So if I lose a quiver, or if I lose a red dot, that's not the end of the world. Okay, here's the battery cap. Okay, I'm going to hold the turret still and just give it a little tweak with a Leatherman so it doesn't back out on us. And see if you can see. Probably not. But the dot is working. There we go. And I can change it from red to green. There's the green. I've never been a big fan of that personally. And it's adjustable for brightness. Awesome. Now you gotta remember to shut this off every time. And always look through it to make sure that you're truly off. Alright, stand right by for 1 second. I'll show you a $1 million trick. Alright, here's the $1 million trick that I promised. I have a heavy shooting background. One thing I always did with any scope I had was in the turret adjustment, your windage and elevation, I always kept a coin in there. Penny, dime, nickel, whatever would fit. And what that helps you do you know, if you don't have your Leatherman on you or anything else, a coin will fit in here. This is a dime in this case, and I can make my adjustments. Now if I was to lose my scope, a dime in this case will also fit in my adjustment slot. That's going to give me a little extra leverage to try to turn these out. A multi-tool would grab this, that maybe you wouldn't want to mar up your thumb rings. You could possibly even, you know, start to split a stick, jam the stick over there, and then that's going to give you like a wing nut effect. But generally speaking, every scope I've got has a small coin in it. In this case, this does not fit. So you got to adapt a little bit. This is the scope cap. So I'm going to take a dime, put it on top of the cap, and then break out the Gorilla Tape. There. Nobody will ever notice, but if you need to make a scope adjustment in the field, this is going to be there with you. Well, we've got the crossbow assembled. Next step is to get the string on the thing and let's shoot some arrows through it.